The guest came to the show with a Sartori bow and German violin that was given to her by her teacher in 1963. The historical precedent surrounding the violin is fascinating because the guest needed something better to showcase her talent.
And my music teacher decided I was doing pretty well, and he said, you need a slightly better violin than the one you're playing. And he offered this to me. He said he found it because it fit my size, and he thought it would be good for me.
However, the violin cost $180, which she couldn't afford. Luckily, her parents agreed to cover the rest if she could raise part of the money.
Actually, I didn't raise all the money, but I raised $62 by selling Krispy Kreme donuts on Saturday mornings. I went door to door.
Although the violin does not come with a bow, so the guest was giving a Sartori bow by her father. In the last few years, the violin was taken to an expert for repair who advised that the guest should take it on the Roadshow to satisfy her curiosity about its worth. The violin was made in Germany, but given an Italian label that goes by the name Salvatore Rossani and dated Milano 1910.
There was a time when the Germans felt like they would have more of an advantage in the marketplace if their names didn't sound German.
The violin was crafted from high-grade wood and varnish that was mostly attributed to violins made in Markneukirchen, part of Germany. Acknowledging the date and the quality of this instrument, its retail value would be around.
So in the retail world, a violin like this these days sells for between $5,000 and $7,000.
Also, the Sartori bow was a classical one that was made in the early 20th century and was typical of those made in France by Eugene Sartori. Although not every bow that carries a Sartori signature was made by him, this bow has all the marks and features that substantiate that it was made by Sartori around 1871 to 1946. So the conservative value of this bow should be,
I would say a conservative retail figure would be $20,000.
Oh my goodness.
The guest brought in a pair of beautiful black pottery pieces gifted to her mother in 1957 by the Tafoya family in New Mexico. The guest believed the pots were made by the Tafoyas, but upon examination, they are highly valuable Maria Martinez pieces from San Ildefonso, Pueblo. The pots feature a design of the underwater serpent Avanu, a recurring motif in Maria Martinez pottery. The black coloring was achieved through a special reduction firing technique, a signature characteristic of the artist's work. The pots are in excellent condition, particularly impressive for their age, with the minor caveat of needing a light cleaning. What truly elevated the value of the pieces was their matching nature. This perfectly matched pair was unlike any other Maria Martinez pots ever encountered. This rarity, coupled with the size and design, placed the value of the pair at a staggering.
You better start at $45,000 and go up to about $55,000.
Oh. You're sure?
I'm positive.
Imagine stepping into a quaint antique shop and discovering a wooden duck nestled among the treasures.
It's a bit of a cliche when people say he's priceless.
You can't help but wonder about its history, who carved it, where it's been, and the stories it holds.
This duck has been on Lake Windermere for the best part of 100 years or more, is that right?
120 years.
Oh.
Its rustic charm and intricate details are attractive. This wooden duck isn't just a decorative piece, it's a symbol of simplicity and elegance. Holding it in your hands, you feel a connection to the past and a sense of appreciation for handmade craftsmanship. Despite its simplicity, there's an undeniable charm to this wooden duck that speaks to your soul. It reminds you to slow down, appreciate the beauty in everyday objects. Placing it on the shelf will continue to captivate and inspire others who discover its timeless allure. The value of this could not be determined, as it is priceless.
For you £1,000, will you sell it? If I offered you £5,000?
No, it wouldn't go to anybody other than the family, and I'd make sure that it was looked after.
Yeah, exactly. And it didn't end up on anybody's dinner plate again.
No.
To mark America's important Civil War history, this album print of Fort Monroe was made in 1860. Fort Monroe, also known as Freedom's Fortress, was where slaves in the old days were told to come by General Benjamin Butler during the U.S. Civil War.
A national monument, I know that it was known as Freedom's Fortress, General Benjamin Butler during the U.S. Civil War.
General Butler, an Army general, played a prominent role in defending Washington during the Civil War. This fortress was where slaves were liberated from their obligations as slaves. Despite dating back to 1860, the album prints still maintain their quality. Although there appears to be some sort of mold on this album piece, this quality album piece still auctions at,
I would give you an estimated value at auction of between $1,500 and $2,500 for the pair.
Wow.
from being purchased during the Civil War to becoming an heirloom passed down to today's guest.
It was purchased by my third great-grandfather. The story from my family is that it was purchased during the Civil War.
This foil front mantel clock is the proper example of originality never fades. Created by who you'd call a legend in the clock industry, Chauncey Jerome, an expert clockmaker, this clock was made in 1845. The clock is a type of shelf clock, which had a case made from an exotic wood called rosewood. Engraved in the clock is a copper plate that has a gold wash over it to lure in a passerby into admiring it. Perhaps what's most interesting about this clock is its rarity. Additionally, this clock was part of the first batch of clocks made by Chauncey Jerome in what would later become his clock industry revolution.
Now, Chauncey Jerome was a very colorful character in the clock industry.
Perhaps that's why it auctions at
This clock today, if you were trying to replace it at a high-end retail shop, a really nice clock shop, you'd probably have to spend somewhere between $1,500, more likely $1,800.
Okay. Very good. Remarkable.
this Sèvres vase, believed to have been gifted to the guest's great-grandfather. Passed down through the family, the vase eventually made its way to the guest, connecting them to a bygone era of elegance and craftsmanship. The vase bears Sèvres marks, including an underglazed green mark denoting its production year as 1912.
Then it sat around for a year or two, and then it was decorated in 1914, the red mark.
And the quality and style of the decoration speaks to its authenticity, showcasing the highest quality hand-enameled design in the Art Nouveau style. Sèvres, known for its traditional styles, embraced the Art Nouveau movement, leading to a shift in their designs, exemplified by this vase's exquisite decoration. This Sèvres vase is collectively valued at about,
It would probably now be worth somewhere in the $2,500 to $3,500 range.
This gun, believed to have belonged to Bill Dalton, is a family heirloom passed down from the guest's great-grandfather, who received it from his uncle. The uncle was an undertaker in Coffeyville, Kansas, known for his association with the infamous Dalton gang in Western history. The gun's provenance ties it to a specific period and place in American history. The appraiser suggests that with solid documentation, the gun could be worth between $50,000 to $70,000, but without it, its value is estimated at around,
I would estimate it's worth $50,000 to $70,000.
Thank you.
These candlesticks purchased by the guest's mother in 1981 were found tucked away in a box in the basement after her parents passed away. The candlesticks are a unique combination of Moorcroft pottery and Liberty & Company pewter.
These probably date from around 1930.
Okay.
The ceramic features a pattern called Moonlit Blue, known for its beautiful blue and green hues, making them a standout piece. Despite their similar design, the candlesticks have slight differences, adding to their individuality. The pewter base is marked Made in England, Tudrick, indicating Liberty's involvement in their production. In a retail setting, these candlesticks could fetch around,
These would be about $3,000 for the pair.
Oh my gosh.
Well, they're very nice.
Right. Oh my gosh.
These candlesticks represent a blend of artistic styles from Moorcroft pottery and Liberty & Company, making them a prized possession for any collector. The guest inherited a piece of Cellurette from his mother-in-law, referred to as a wine cooler. Believed to have originated in England, the item was purchased for around $1,500 in 1952. The appraiser identified it as a Regency Cellurette, typical of the Regency period during the rule of Prince of Wales from 1811 to 1820. Inside the piece, there was an inscription reading, T. Wilson, Queen Street, London, indicating the furniture retailer. The appraiser suggested the piece's exceptional quality hinted at being crafted by a renowned London cabinet maker. The Cellurette featured ebonized caps, reading on freestanding columns, and tapered feet with brass casters. Moreover, it exhibited mahogany panels with ebony banding, providing a striking contrast. The guest was shocked by the significantly high evaluation of this beautiful piece.
In the range of about 15 to 16,000, so 10 times what you thought. 15.
You know CPR?
Do I know CPR?
A vase was showcased on the show, which was given to the guest by his father. Originally, it belonged to his great-great-grandfather, who received it as a gift from his friend. The appraiser identified the pottery piece as a work by the famous artist named Artis van Brigel.
Special piece for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's a piece by Artis van Brigel, and we've done Van Brigel pottery here.
Dating back to 1904, during his creative peak. The piece bore Van Brigel's signature and a double A mark for Artis and Anna van Brigel. The particular piece had a tremendous amount of handwork.
This particular form is called climbing for honey. It's a couple of bears climbing up a beehive. It's a rather famous one, and my recollection is it's the first year this piece was made.
And showcased two distinct matte green glazes, enhancing its aesthetic appeal. The guest also brought a medallion from the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair, but it was uncertain if the specific piece won a medal at a fair or not. Despite minor damage, its early production year and quality made it highly valuable. The potential value of the item was estimated to be,
at auction, would be between $20,000 and $30,000.
Holy cow.
Okay.
The guest presented a painting by Leo Kenny, a Seattle-based artist born in 1925 and deceased in 2001. This painting was one of Leo's early works, painted in 1946 when he was 21. Originally sold to friends of the artist, it ended up in the guest's possession after being purchased from an estate sale held by the surviving spouse of one of the original buyers. The painting also had the original Kenny signature on it. The painting's surrealistic style was influenced by artists like Salvador Dali and Giorgio di Chirocco. The muted tones and gray hues reflected Kenny's surroundings in Seattle, known for its cloudy skies. The painting featured a boat and a moon, suggestive of a dreamlike atmosphere. The painting's value had appreciated significantly during past years, and the appraiser estimated its worth to be between,
I believe an appropriate estimate would be between $5,000 and $8,000. And if you were to see this in a retail gallery setting here in the Seattle area, I think it would be up to as much as $10,000.
The guest seemed to agree with the price. The host introduces the Hotel Ponce de Leon in St. Augustine, built by Henry Flagler, co-founder of Standard Oil, as a luxurious winter resort for the wealthy elite in the late 19th century. The Tiffany Glass Company was hired to create stained glass windows for the hotel, which became a hallmark of Gilded Age splendor. In 1968, the hotel was converted into Flagler College, and the dining hall retained all 79 of its original Tiffany stained glass windows.
Whereas this is very different. These are simpler, they've been made in multiples, and Tiffany himself referred to these as ornamental windows.
The appraiser discusses Louis Comfort Tiffany's early career and how he coped with grief by throwing himself into building projects. The windows in the dining hall are described as simpler ornamental windows featuring a Spanish Renaissance design, with repetitive elements like the flaming cauldron and the head of Bacchus. The appraiser explains that while some of the glass in the windows may be from Tiffany Glass Company, other companies also produced glass to Tiffany standards, making attribution complex. Comparable Tiffany windows range in value from,
They would range in price from about $5,000 per window to $45,000 per window, and it really depends on the size, the condition, and the provenance.
It is just wonderful to stand here and see Tiffany's early work and hear all about it from you. Thank you, Arlie.
Welcome, Mark.
The guest recounts how their father, while attending Santa Rosa Junior College in the mid-1960s and working at a museum, met Charles Schulz, the creator of Peanuts, possibly through Schulz's wife, despite their political differences. Schulz gave the guest's father an original Peanuts comic strip as a gift, which was stored in a trunk for 50 years before being rediscovered recently. The appraiser examines the comic strip, dated 1965, and signed by Charles Schulz.
And it shows two of the main characters, Charlie Brown, obviously, and his dog, Snoopy.
Featuring Snoopy ice skating and encountering his future fiancée, the beagle of his dreams. Despite some water damage affecting the signature, the appraiser values the comic strip at auction between,
This would bring between $15,000 and $20,000.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
the guest expressing a wish that their father could have known the true value of the comic strip. The guest brings a drawing done by their father's great-great-uncle, who was in the 11th Cavalry and stationed at Fort Laramie, Wyoming in the 1860s. The drawing was presented to his first wife, Sarah Johnson. The appraiser reveals that the actual maker of the drawing is Caspar W. Collins, an officer who served with the guest's relative in the 11th Ohio Volunteer Company. Caspar Collins was known for his drawings of forts and settlements in the Wyoming Territory. Caspar Collins, born in Ohio, was deeply influenced by the West and
he was responsible for drawing some of the earliest maps and depictions of the early forts and settlements in the Wyoming Territory.
His work is known for its accuracy and historical significance. The drawing is described as a watercolor on fine muslin and
it's a wonderful folky scene of Fort Laramie. And if you take a look, they did a recent rebuilding of Fort Laramie.
it was likely made as a memento during tumultuous times, including conflicts with the local Indian population. Due to its historical and familial significance, the appraiser values the drawing at
of $20,000.
Really?
The guest's grandfather purchased a pair of figurines in the early 1970s at an auction. The family jokingly referred to them as sunrise and sunset, but they are actually called day and night. The guest has had the figurines since the mid-1980s, keeping them stored away due to having children and pets. The appraiser confirms that the figurines are genuine Meissen porcelain, noting that the quality of the modeling and detailing, as well as
They have a traditional Meissen crossed swords mark. They're little dots at the ends of the handles of the swords.
Okay.
That particular mark.
the figurine representing day features sun rays, fire, a sunflower, and a bird, while the night figurine has stars, an owl, and darker clothing. Despite some condition issues, which are acceptable in Meissen porcelain, the both figurines as a pair are conservatively estimated to fetch between
$15,000 and $20,000.
Okay. My grandfather was very correct.
The guest's father, a pilot in Alaska, owned a painting done by Magnus Kolkord Hjurlin, known as Rusty, for their airline's calendar. The guest has had the painting for over 20 years. Rusty was a Swedish-American artist who settled in Alaska.
First coming to Valdez, then coming to Barrow. I looked up Barrow just now on a map. He was really at the tippy top of Alaska.
The painting depicts Inuits in a umak, a traditional vessel, alongside a DC-3 or C-47 airplane, symbolizing the transition in technology in Alaska. The airline associated with the painting was Ween Air Alaska, the first commercial airline in Alaska, started in the 1920s. Rusty was also a member of the Alaska Territorial Guard during World War II. Paintings by Rusty are rare at auction, but the appraiser values this painting at
It would be valued at $10,000 to $15,000.
Wow. Okay.
The guest's vase has been in the family for over 100 years, given to her grandmother as a wedding gift around 1918 in Omaha, Nebraska. The vase is from the Frederick Carter era of Stubinglass, known for its colored glass, specifically the Tyrian line.
This line was called Tyrian, and Tyrian referred to, as far as we know, the imperial purple fabrics worn by the monarchs of ancient Tyre.
The vase is marked Tyrian with an additional paper label from Whitmore, a store in Omaha, Nebraska, known for handling fine art. Estimated to have been made between 1916 and 1921, the vase's smaller version sold for close to $8,000, with the larger version estimated to be worth between
$10,000 and $12,000.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I would have never guessed that one.
The appraiser advises against using the vase further to prevent damage to its surface. This stunning piece was crafted by Charles Lolamaw, a renowned Hopi artist and jeweler. A guest inherited this bracelet by Charles Lolamaw from her mother, who purchased it during a Charles Lolamaw show in Santa Fe in the 80s. Born in 1921, he was a pioneer in American jewelry. Lolamaw's work transcends not just Native American jewelry, but American artistry as a whole.
But to create this
took a tremendous amount of work. When you look at these stones, he was a lapidarist. He cut these stones.
His craftsmanship extended beyond jewelry to encompass other art forms as well. This piece showcases his mastery. It's truly a masterpiece.
He cut each one of these pieces and fit them together on a flat surface.
Lolama's upbringing in the traditional environment deeply influenced his work. He meticulously cut and set each stone, like the lapis lazuli and turquoise. Lolama's mark inside the bracelet catches everyone's attention. The craftsmanship reflects its value.
This piece came up for sale at auction. I think it would easily bring 40 to 50,000 and perhaps as high as 55,000.
Oh my. I knew it was a wonderful piece. I didn't realize that it had appreciated that much.
The guest inherited the Lionel Blue Comet Train set from their cousin's estate, who had inherited it from their uncle. The appraiser provides a brief history of the Lionel Company, explaining that it was founded by Joshua Lionel Cohen, who initially developed flash powder for photography before venturing into toy trains. The Blue Comet train set, named after a real train that ran from New Jersey to Atlantic City,
it was painted blue because of the Jersey seashore. And guess what? The Blue Comet, the Faye, the Westfall, and the temple here, all named after comets,
was one of Lionel's most luxurious and beautiful creations, reflecting the luxury of the actual train it was modeled after. The guest learns about the history and luxury of the Blue Comet train set, including its mohair seats.
There was a smoking room for the gentlemen. There's an observation deck, which you see in the back of this train, and they had all the luxuries for that time. For a Lionel train, this is unheard of. You could never take the top off.
All designed to replicate the experience of the actual Blue Comet train. Despite being sold during the height of the Great Depression for $70, the Lionel Blue Comet train set is now valued at an estimated...
For auction, I would put this out, estimate $8,000 to $10,000.
Oh my.
It's sold as much as $11,500.
Good heavens.
The guest shared an interesting story of how she got this tricycle. It was discovered in a house her parents bought in 1958. This piece is called a velocipede that dates back to the 1860s to 1880s. During that period, there was an explosion of bicycle designs. This piece is a really neat design for a tricycle, and it's one of the few that has remained pretty much unchanged over the years. It is in very good condition, and there is still a remnant of the original red paint color.
Seat. So nowadays, they would make it out of a bent piece of wood or leather. This is actually one solid piece of wood.
The antique bicycle market has blown up over the last few years, and at auction, this could fetch...
I would put an auction estimate on this of $1,500 to $2,000 in this condition.
Oh, good. Great.
The guest recalls fond memories of Cassius Clay, later known as Muhammad Ali, living in their neighborhood when they were around 8 years old. They would follow him around as he practiced boxing.
So after he would do that, he would invite us over to his house for hot dogs and Kool-Aid.
The item is a fighting promotion personalized by Cassius Clay to the guest, and again on his legs he wrote, "From Cassius Clay." The appraiser suggests insuring it for about $10,000. Our guest is pleasantly surprised by the estimated value, expressing disbelief that it could be worth that much. The appraiser describes the item as a great piece, a knockout. The guest inherited a baseball signed by the 1923 New York Yankees, a team that clinched their first World Series title that year. This baseball is missing signatures from a few players, but it boasts some big names like Babe Ruth, whose autograph graces the sweet spot. An even rarer find is the signature of a young Lou Gehrig, just 20 years old in his rookie season. There is some evidence of tracing and some enhancement in some of the signatures. These enhancements could significantly impact its value. If there's enhancement, then the ball would be worth about...
You're looking at a ball that's worth about $3,000 to $5,000 at auction.
An authenticated ball, meaning the signatures are confirmed as genuine, could fetch a price between...
You're looking at about $10,000 to $15,000 at auction.
The guest brought in an unexpected treasure trove, artwork by Bill Watterson, the beloved creator of Calvin and Hobbes. These weren't just any pieces, these were Watterson's high school yearbook from 1976, along with illustrations he created specifically for the yearbook. The teacher who commissioned the artwork was the one and only baseball coach and English teacher at the school. Bill Watterson wrote Calvin and Hobbes from 1985 to 1995 and was notoriously private, with his artwork rarely appearing on the open market. Due to this very limited availability, even these early sketches hold significant value. The yearbook itself, containing some of Watterson's earliest artistic works, is considered the rarest Bill Watterson illustrated book in existence. The appraiser estimated its value at a staggering
$3,000 and $5,000. Wow!
The individual drawings within the yearbook, glimpses into Watterson's artistic development, were each valued between
$2,000 and $5,000 for insurance.
Wow, that's crazy.
When you add up everything, the total insurance value could be as high as
For insurance value, you're probably looking at $7,000 to $15,000.
That's crazy. I had no idea. Wow.
The guest inherited a remarkable collection of baseball memorabilia from his father, a man who clearly cherished the sport. The collection included not only autographed baseballs, but also signed pages from a collector's album. The most prized possession, sadly missing from the appraisal, was a foul ball hit by Babe Ruth during his last season playing for the Boston Braves. However, the remaining items were impressive in their own right. The collection also boasted several signed baseballs, including a 1930 Boston Braves partial team signed ball, which had about 9 signatures on it. The next is the Philadelphia A's, which from 1928 to 1930 and is considered a full team ball with 19 signatures. The last ball is a rare 1933 Washington Senators team signed ball.
On that at $6,000.
Wow. Individual autographs were just as valuable, with Babe Ruth's signature on an album page estimated at
I'd insure that one for $8,000.
Wow. Okay.
In total, the value of the entire collection for insurance purposes is
I would insure this group here today for $25,000.
Really? Wow. That's unbelievable. Terrific. Thank you.
The guest's father had unearthed this gem at a junk shop for a mere £12. However, its current estimated value is
£3,000?
Wow. It's rather nice.
This piece is called an architect's table, which was gifted to the guest.
When this piece was made about 1725, 1730, it was a brand new form of furniture.
It was an elegant, high-style piece of furniture, which the table extended to make a larger, flat area. It can be turned into a little lactern, and there are lots of cubby holes in it. Underneath this piece is a great spot for storage and little side panels which open up for drawers. There are 3 graduated doors to store a lot of things. This piece features a decoupage-like wallpaper in the inside space.
And there are details on this piece which really make it elegant. And I wanted to just draw attention to the 3 Corinthian columns across the front.
It has reeded columns taper, which makes the form light, and the wood is burled veneers. They spared no expense when it came to the materials used for this piece, and despite not being in vogue anymore, would still auction for.
If this were to come to auction, we'd put a conservative estimate of $4,000 to $6,000. If you're insuring it, I would say $12,000, $15,000 for a piece like this.
The guest inherited a bronze sculpture from his mother, but little is known about its origin beyond the fact that the guest's mother collected art and considered the piece valuable. It is a work by Antoine Bourdelle, a respected French sculptor who learned from other artistic giants like Auguste Rodin. Bourdelle was particularly successful during his lifetime, even exhibiting at the renowned Armory Show of Modern Art in New York City in 1913. The sculpture itself is estimated to have been created around 1900. It's a relatively small piece compared to Bourdelle's usual monumental works, but it boasts intricate details, likely achieved through the lost wax process. Furthermore, the sculpture is part of a very limited edition, possibly consisting of only 5 or 6 casts in total. Considering these factors, the sculpture is valued at a significant sum of
would be worth about $6,000.
Wow. That's great.
The guest showcased a show-and-hut doll he bought at a farm auction 9 years ago in Wisconsin. This piece was made by the Schoenhut Company in Philadelphia.
A lot of people think Schoenhuts were made in Germany because it's a German name, but they were made in Philadelphia starting in the 1890s, and the circus was made well into the early 30s.
Schoenhut is an American manufacturer of toy pianos, dolls, and circus figures. After submitting a patent application in 1909, the company patented the all-wood Perfection art doll in 1991. Humpty Dumpty is considered one of the first playset toys ever made in America, and one of the great classic toys because it allowed children to recreate a fantastic circus. At auction, this piece is worth an estimated.
In today's market, I would value this set at easily $10,000 to $12,000. So,
Great. The guest bought this back in the 70s. It's a porcelain coffee service, usually for a tete-a-tete in French. The box is silk-lined, which creates a visually appealing display. At the bottom of this piece, it says Imperial of Sèvres, which is the royal porcelain factory that was in France. This porcelain is transfer decorated, meaning the design was done on a special transfer paper before transferring to this piece. This is done to ensure its durability.
If this mark was right, we would date this piece to somewhere about 1804 to 1805 in the time of Napoleon I.
The crest itself is slightly crooked on the cup, suggesting it was hastily done. If it were Sèvres in 1804 to 1805, a tete-a-tete such as this would be worth much more. The current value at auction would be,
as is, since it's late 19th century, I think you still did all right paying $300 for it, but unfortunately it's only worth about $800 to $1,000 now.
The guest inherited the George Washington medallion from their grandfather, who had it hanging in his living room in the early 1920s. It then passed to their father, and eventually to them. The medallion has an intriguing history, as it was discovered in Boston after being used in a floral arch for Lafayette's visit in 1824. It was found by the cleanup crew the day after the parade celebrating Lafayette's visit. The appraiser identifies the carving as possibly being the work of Samuel McIntyre of Salem, Massachusetts, a renowned architect and carver during the Federal period in America. McIntyre was known for his intricate carvings on furniture and buildings in Salem. The guest recalls that the medallion was originally thought to be black, but they discovered its original paint when they cleaned it with mild detergent and a soft sponge.
When I started seeing color, I said, oh, you don't go any farther.
There are only a handful of these George Washington medallions known, most of which are in museums in New England, making this one of the few in private hands. Appraiser estimates the value of the medallion to be between,
this is probably worth somewhere in the range of between $70,000 and probably about $90,000.
Well, that's very interesting.
Our guest got the print from the Huron Elks Lodge during a remodel. The print is by Rosa Bronher, a famous 19th century artist. Original print is massive and exhibited in Paris since 1853. It's called The Horse Fair and made Bonheur very famous. It was so popular that numerous copies were made in various sizes and processes.
It is probably one of the most common subjects for 19th century prints. Obviously, most of them are not this size.
This print is a large chromiolithograph printed from separate stones. Despite its rarity, there is some surface damage, and there's acid in the old wood backing. Restoration might be costly but worthwhile because the print holds significant value. Guest invested $500 in it, but now it's valued at an astonishing figure.
But I think really in a retail environment, even in this condition, you're probably talking about $8,000 to $9,000.
Awesome.
The guest's father, a self-taught mechanic turned automobile dealer, placed an ad in the Times in the 1960s, offering automotive repairs, parts, and cars in exchange for artwork. The response was overwhelming, leading to a flood of letters and media attention. The artwork in question is by Alex Katz, signed and dated 1963. The guest's father acquired it a few years later, around 1967.
I believe that there was an introduction made by another artist and that my father actually met Alex Katz and did whatever type of exchange was done.
Alex Katz, born in 1927, studied at Cooper Union and Skowhegan, where he transitioned from drawing from imagination to drawing from life, influencing his realistic style. He later became known for leading the school of New Realism in contemporary art. The painting, in oil on board, features Kat's characteristic flat, two-dimensional style and signature green color. Its value, if offered in a retail gallery, might be around...
Asking price might be in the $50,000 range.
My goodness, what a wonderful surprise.
This copy of 30 Seconds Over Tokyo holds significant historical value, as it was purchased by the guest's grandfather for the 50th anniversary of the Doolittle raid. He took it to the event where the surviving members of the raid signed it. The appraiser notes that with these signatures, the book's value is estimated to be between
about $1,000 to $1,500.
Oh, wow.
as an auction estimate.
Wow.